here. So today's topic is about listening comprehension. Perhaps this has to be this ought to be done in initial classes. Unfortunately, we could not do it, and to conduct this, why it was delayed because as you all know, in our laboratory, the HDMI cable was not working, so I was not able to use projector. There was a lot of technical issues, so we could not conduct this particular session in the beginning of the semester. But yes, today I'm talking about listening comprehension. So see, let me tell you one thing. If one has to be a good speaker, then first okay, something is going wrong with sharing the slides. Oh, you can see the slides. Okay, thank you. One thing, if one has to be a good speaker, the first and foremost thing is one should be a good listener, right? If you listen carefully, if you listen completely the talk of the speaker, then you will be in a position to speak way better, right? I think you all agree with me. So, listening is very, very important in life, right? So, it is not only about, in a very sad sense that feel like we have to listen. No, not like that. See, as you all students, right, you spend 85% of your time in listening to lectures, right, from morning till evening you listen to it. And also when it comes to your daily life, for that matter, you have to listen to your parents, your fellow mates and classmates and friends, isn't it? And when you finish your college and then you go to the job, workplace, wherein you have to listen to the people, the colleagues, and then those people, like the officials, usually spend 60% of their time in listening. So I think if you listen to the lecture in a very careful way and with all concentration, probably you will definitely give your papers and exam to its fullest, right? So you know the importance of listening. But what happens sometimes, we may end up being a not good listener, and also there are a few reasons for it, right? Lack of interest, and then lack of concentration, and then ambience may want support. There are a few other factors, why we lag behind with the skill. But listening is the first and foremost skill one has to acquire, right? One has to imbibe in oneself. See, in English, we always revolve around LSRW's skills, that is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So there also we have given first and foremost, importance to listening. So let's see what we are going to, discuss on this topic in today's session. Once again, guys, something went wrong with. Just hold on for 2 minutes. Let's see what does the issue. Let me fix it. screen sharing has stopped. The share window is closed. Okay, I did that. How come the students, they themselves become co-host? Okay, so the first thing that is, listening skills. Why is important? As you all know, learning is most important aspect of English. Why am I stressing on English? Because we, as studying English as language and literature to improve our competency, right? So executives spend, that's what I said, they spend 60% of their time in listening to the coordinators and colleagues, subordinates, superiors, right? And then listening is more important to students because you have to listen from morning till evening, right? Your class starts at 8:30 and then winds up around 5 o'clock. So from morning till evening, you keep on listening to, isn't it? So 85% of your time you spend on listening to your classes and your friends, parents. Okay, and in process of listening. So as you all know, it is not a one-way process. It is I think he must be hungry. Okay. Process of listening. Listening is the process of hearing as well as it ends up in two-way process. So the process of hearing and then assimilating whatever is heard is called as listening, right? The process of hearing and then assimilating whatever is heard is called as listening. To be an effective listener, right, an efficient speaker, and one should be an efficient speaker and an alert listener, right? And then one should involve in active process, right? There are two ways of listening, like active listening and passive. I'll be talking about it in the later part of the slide. What happens is, like, you keep on joining the session. I think it will be very difficult for me to conduct the session. Please be on time and also sit in a place where you get proper network and don't roam around. I've seen a few members, they forget to switch off their videos, and I could see, like, how they'll be roaming around the entire house and the lobbies and also the lounge, and then you try to listen to the class. That won't work. From next class, if you're you sit in a place wherein you do get proper network, and don't tell me like, ma'am, because of the network we are getting out and then we are relogging in. No, I think it is all reasons. Like how many times like it really disturbs the process. Understand? So now, from now on, Gavi Siddesh, I think you're listening to me. Please don't request if they're late to the class, and then don't ask me to join them to the session. I cannot admit them. I don't do it. Okay. So listening as code, it is a two-way process. The speaker sends message, that is called as encoding, and then receiver receives message called as decoding. So what happens after decoding? I'm sorry, in the decoding process, we accept the message, we comprehend it, right? Comprehending in the sense like, to understand, in understanding the core point, the core ideology, the entire, idea of the context. And then we try to analyze it, right? We try to analyze it. And then we involve in giving feedback, the message, and then we memorize it. So these are things our receiver involves in. He or she accepts the message, comprehends and analyze, give feedback, memorizing. Feedback in the sense like, through your, verbally or non-verbally, right? And then like, see, to all let you know that, if I ask you like, what in the last class, what I have done, I'm so glad that you could memorize it. What does it mean? That you have listened to it. If you don't listen, you can't memorize it. You can't tell me like, what class I have done and in what topic I have done in the last class. You can't tell me that. Why you're able to tell me like what I have finished in the last class? Because you have listened to it. That's how the process ends. Why is it troubling today a lot? Okay, well, So yes, I can. I mean, you guys can hear me. Chandrika, can you please switch off your video? Okay. So now, I don't want to maximize the slides because some error is happening. I don't understand what is that. Well, process of listening, as I was talking about. Um, so now. So now let's see what is encoding and what is decoding. So encoding, the speaker transmits the message with the help of verbal and non-verbal communication process. Okay, and then decoding, once the speaker conveys the message, there are several stages that take place at the level of the listener. What are those? As we discussed, acceptance. So what actually happens over there? Focus on the message with full of concentration, and the other distractions are actually ignored. Right? So hearing is different, listening is different. Listening with full of concentration that you listen, right? And then comprehending, understand the message in the same manner as intended by the speaker. And then what actually the speaker is saying from his or her perspective. And then you analyze, right? Analyze the message and understand the details of it. Conclusions are drawn and assimilated. So the speaker said from his or her perspective, and as the listener, you try to analyze it, right? And then figure it out what it is all about. Coming to feedback, encourages continued communication between the speaker and the listener. Like feedback in the sense, you remember your initial day's presentation, wherein when you go as a speaker on the dais, students used to, your classmates used to look at you and then, interact you non-verbally through their gestures and postures. For example, their smile, or, the way they were encouraging by clapping, and then their eye contact especially, right? That is the feedback, isn't it? So if they don't look at you, they don't clap for you, your presentation, or they don't welcome you, they don't greet you, what happens? That attitude definitely discourages the speaker. The moment that you, as a speaker, you guys go on the dais, and then the other classmate of yours starts looking at the wall of the classroom, then how does it feel for you as a speaker? It is so embarrassing and it is so discouraging for anybody to speak, right? So feedback is very important. As a listener, we do give feedback right through responses, right? Nodding head, or through your facial expressions, like raising your eyebrows, and then widening your eyes, and then smile, right? So all that matters. And then what happens? The last stage of process of listening, you memorize it, right? So that day she has said that, and that day he has told that. Remember, see, for entire semester you listen to the classes, end of the semester, right? After 6 months you're going to reproduce the same thing on your papers of in examination. What does it mean? You're able to memorize what was said in the classroom. Then, see, I wanted to stress on the difference between listening and hearing. Excuse me. So, listening. Let me focus first on hearing, right? So, it takes place automatically without any conscious effort. And conscious effort, it's a passive process. It's an involuntary act. and it is one-way process. No feedback is required. Let me explain all these things. So you don't listen to it. For example, you're listening to the class, and then the fan is working in your room. You can hear the fan sound, right? Whether you want it or you don't want it, it will just come and fall on your ear, and then you could hear it. So it is a passive process. You are not, are you giving any feedback to the noise to the sound of the fan? No. So it is an involuntary act wherein you're not involving into the process, where you're not showing any interest and you're not being active over there. And it is one-way process, right? So it is that is the only thing will make noise continuously. It's a kind of monologic, and it's a one-way process. And do you give feedback to the noise of the sound? Sound of the fan? You don't, right? So that is what hearing is about. But when it comes to listening, no, it is a conscious efforts. There is conscious effort is required. Okay, it's an active process where the listener has to be attentive, right? Somebody is, if you're not understanding the class, or you're not able to understand the points what your teacher is being told, then you're not showing concentration, or because you don't like the class, or because you don't like the teacher, because you don't like the topic. There will be several reasons. So you don't understand it. So you involve in the hearing session but not listening. But when you are active, right? When you put conscious efforts to listen, then you will understand the session. So it is a voluntary act, and it is a two-way process in which which involves the speaker as well as listener. It is not a monologic one. It is a two-way process, and feedback is very much required, isn't it? You have to give feedback so that the speaker get encouraged through the listener, and then speak more. Then, coming to listening, there are two types of listening. That is basically, right? Basically, there are two types of listening. That is active listening and then passive listening. So, what happens under active listening? Listener actively responds verbally as well as non-verbally to the spoken message, right? So you start responding, right? Because when you have actively involved in the process, obviously you respond to the speaker, and that encourages him or her to speak more. Source of encouragement for the speaker to continue speaking, that your active participation, your active response will encourage them to speak, and that becomes the source of inspiration or source of encouragement or motivation to speak. Listener exhibits positive body language. So in active listening, what happens? Positive body language, as I told, interest on the face, open arms, eyes, right? Raising eyebrows, eye contact, and inclining the head towards the speaker, like, nodding, yes, 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 something like that. Then yes, no, all that. And then as a listener, we involve in, feedback session, like where we ask questions, we seek clarifications, ignores other distractions. So these are the way that, to involve in the active listening. And then passive listening, as you all know, we don't show any interest. Listener doesn't have actively response verbally or non-verbally to the spoken message. No source of encouragement for the speaker to continue speaking. And then no asking for clarification. Example, listening to a family conversation over breakfast while watching the TV, how does it matter, right? You're eating, you're having your breakfast, you're watching TV, that too, you're watching morning news, and your family member is talking to you. You're just hearing them and you're not actively participating in that discussion because you're more into the TV news. But what happens here? You're listening to the TV news and then they are speaking. You're hearing that also, but you're not responding to them. Right? So that depends on the interest. So you were so interested in listening to the morning news rather listening to your family members talk. Then types of listening, academic listening. What do we do in academic listening? We listen to the lectures and then we listen to the discussions. Attentive listening, formal meeting, workshops, right? We listen to the formal meetings and then workshops. Appreciative listening, that takes place for the purpose of entertainment. For example, that you listen to music, you listen to the dialogues of the movie, and then you appreciate it, you like it, right? So that is for your entertainment. And then relationship listening. Listener pays attention to the messages of people who are important. For example, you listen to your mom because she's very important, rather listening to listening in the sense not like whatever that they say, they tell and then you follow doing it, not like that. There are 2-3 members talking to you, but you listen to the talk based on the relationship, right? So that you share with that particular person. So that is called as relationship listening, and usually listener pays more attention to it. And then empathetic listening. So listening to the grievances, listening to the condolence messages, or listening to you feel very empathetic, you feel very sorry, right? These are the things. And then critical listening, listener wants to weigh the pros and cons of the messages. Okay, so now the last one is critical listening. So listener wants to weigh the pros and cons of the messages. For example, what was said, whether it is right or wrong, that you are going to check. Okay, so critical listening is the wherein you just don't accept the way it is been spoken. You just don't accept the way it is being said, right? From the speaker's perspective, what you do is you critically examine whether it is right or wrong, whether it has got its own positive points or negative points. So you critically analyze it. So that is called as critical listening. And then to be an effective listener, so one has to listen to the speaker carefully, listen to the complete talk, make an eye contact with the speaker. One should have positive attitude, which encourages the speaker to speak, should not be judgmental. One should be open-minded and admit one's biases. So one should listen to the person carefully, like with a lot of concentration, with no other distractions. You should listen. And why we should listen to the complete talk? Because in the mid of the conversation, we cannot draw, analysis saying that he was about to say so, and that speaker's mindset is say so, is this, or the speaker is going to say this, or the speaker is being biased, all that. You cannot draw any clarifications on the basis of the half listening process. So you should listen to the speaker completely, and then you can draw the clarification. I'm sorry, conclusions. And then one should have the eye contact with the speaker, right? When the speaker is talking, you have to listen to him and you have to look at his face. Eye contact is very important. If you start looking at somewhere there, here, and what does it mean? You're not interested in listening to that. And one should have a very positive attitude which encourages speaker to talk. Especially one should not be judgmental, right? They start talking about one caste, or they are being empathetic on one particular caste, doesn't mean that they're against other caste, right? If you're being empathetic on one religion, doesn't mean that you're against other religion, right? So if you are talking about minority women, doesn't mean that you're against the majority, the religion, the other religion women, right? If they're being very empathetic on Dalit women, doesn't mean that they're against other women of the society. So we cannot draw conclusions, right? As a listener, we should always be open-minded. We can't be judgmental. That is what I'm trying to say. Don't be judgmental. You cannot judge a person, just listening to that particular person for 1 or 2 days, or few months, right? It's very difficult to understand one's ideology. So one should not be judgmental. And then we should always be open-minded, and we should admit one's biases, right? We should not make any controversial statement as a speaker, one thing. And as a listener also, if they're saying so, please do take little time to clarify that it is not correct, but not jumping into the argument and then have a discussion, then argument, then that leads to fight. No, don't do it. And then some barriers of listening. So physical barrier, environmental discomfort, right? So the ambience plays very important role in listening. So if the room is dark, too cold, heavy, hot, poor lighting, too windy, or too breezy, and uncomfortable infrastructure, all these are, all these will become very major elements to distract the listener. So one should be in an environment where you can avoid these kind of distraction to be a good listener. Okay, and then coming to noise. So external unnecessary noise is always disturbing, right? What happened in today's class, like from morning we have got one or the other problem and have got only 3 minutes to finish the session. So I think barriers of listening, okay, still 15 minutes is there. Okay, let me finish this. So external unnecessary noise. So it is always disturbing, and the environment is too noisy. It is very difficult to listen to the speaker and concentrate what is being said. And then interruption. So sometimes when you're speaking as a speaker, seeking answers to the questions, which also disturbs, you're teaching something and suddenly people start questioning things, or ask you the doubts. So that will definitely disturb the flow of speaking, the spontaneous overflow of thoughts. So what happens there, you can always as a speaker, that's why while how to give an effective presentation, I made a point like, if you're comfortable, it is fine to answer in the mid of your presentation, but it may disturb other person's continuous process of listening. So always keep the QA in last part of the session, that is question and answer session, so that there won't be any disturbance in your speech. And coming to psychological barrier for concentration, wherein we may lack in in throwing a concentration, and then like that happens because lack of interest, like maybe the topic may not fascinates you, maybe the teacher, maybe the lecture, the style, so on. So when it comes to attitude of a person should be very positive. This positive attitude welcomes any sort of notions of the speaker. So always be positive. If any speaker comes and make statements, try receiving it. Don't be judgmental, and then don't jump into the arguments. Don't jump into fights. All that. If you really want to have an argument, tell them slowly that where did they go wrong. And if you know about a person and they're not that broad-minded enough to take the criticism on their discourse, just leave it. It's not required, right? And then closed or narrow-minded, listeners should not be pessimistic. As I said, they should have an open-minded so that they can receive the talk in different perceptions. And coming to note-taking, this is one subtopic which is very, very important. In exam, they will definitely ask you what is note-taking. So what do? We record the information from one source through making notes. That is called as note taking. So during lecture hours, class notes is challenging. Taking class notes is challenging. I don't think so that you people do it right now, because in those days we used to struggle a lot to collect notes, because there used to we were so much, there was no smartphones. Phones were there, and FM used to get connected to it, and then cameras were not there, WhatsApp was not there, and then internet thing was not there. So we entirely used to depend on our faculty members, what they teach, and then they used to give us reference texts. Soon after the class, we used to run to the library, check out for the books. Okay, and then in library there used to be 3 or 4 copies, and then some other person. The first person who goes and jumps into the library, and then that particular right, he or she will get it. And then they take for a long time, and then we won't get to know who has taken and on whose name it has been issued to. We used to go check, clarify, and then go to them, request. Some people used to share the notes, some people not notes, just for the material, right? Just that 2 or 3 what is that, Xerox copy, or the photocopy of it, pages, 2 or 3 pages. Okay, so it was a very challenging task. So we used to involve in 2 things, that is, one listening, and then the other one is writing it down. So then it was very difficult, but now it is very easy. Now also, if you're depending on your professors for notes, I don't think so it is correct. You should make notes on your own. And there was no technology, there was nothing in our days, but still we were not dependent on our professors. Their job is to teach. And notes making, notes taking, it's all students' job. You understand? So I personally suggest you that please make notes on your own. That will definitely help you to memorize. That will make you to sit for an hour. That will make you to read. that will make you to underline the important points, that will make you to reproduce in your notes, so that you will spend an hour on the session. I mean, on the subject, right? And then when in exam, you need not to put a lot of efforts in by hearting it or studying it for long, because you already know that, right? So please do work on your own in preparing notes. Okay, and then yes, how to make notes. Usually when a teacher or professor gets into the class room, they announce what topic that they are going to deal with. So you take down that topic, you just write that as the main topic of your notes, right? And then while making notes, I think you have to go for even shortcuts, right? Because they'll be very fast in dictating terms. So please go for shortcuts, right? And not in exams, guys. It is only to take notes. Abbreviations are also being used because ICAR, like Indian Council of Agricultural Research, then you need not to write the entire thing. You can just go with ICAR. And then graphs and pie charts can be taken for statistical explanation, right? So you can just write the bar graph and then take the graphs, which will be very easy for you to picturize it, and then you can in the fake copy you can just explain that particular graph on your own. And then numbering is very important, and that will be in decimals. Like you have the teacher is teaching environmental science, so that will be your main heading. And then under that you're talking about the class is about environmental issues, so that will become your first topic. Under that there are two subtopics, that is man-made and natural disaster. So man-made will become, so these two are under the first point, that is environmental issues. So 1.1 man-made, 1.2 is your natural disaster. So under man-made you have got air pollution, water pollution and soil pollution. So what happens to the numbers of these topics? We have to go in decimals. Since it is under 1.1, air pollution will become the first point under 1.1. So that will be numbered as 1.1.1. Water pollution will be the second point, so that has to be numbered as 1.1.2, and then soil pollution 1.1.3. Now under natural disaster, that is 1.2, right? So it has numbered as 1.2. Under that you have got 2 points, heavy rainfall and landslides. So 1.2.1, because that is the first point under 1.2, right? So that is heavy rainfall, and then 1.2.2 is the landslides. So numbering is very important. And then for practice, I want you to send you a link, right, wherein you have to listen to that particular video. Then you have to get back to the discussion, so that we can do it in the next class. Okay. So any doubts you can just ask me. So in exam they will ask you the importance of listening, and then barriers of listening, the objectives of listening, and then importance, barriers, objectives. What else they can ask? Okay, what is note taking, and how does one can be an effective note taker? So these are the questions, and any other questions regarding listening? That's all, I guess. So they will definitely ask for 2 marks question. Till now they haven't asked for 5 marks, but even though they ask, they may ask in clubbing, like what is listening, explain the types of listening, and also the importance of listening. So 3 or 4 points, clubbing together they may ask. And for 2 marks they will definitely ask what is the difference between listening and hearing, right? So from this topic, you may get around for 7 marks in your exam, or 5 or 2 marks for sure. Any other questions? I think it is a very simple topic, but technically we have to understand what it is all about. That's it. Any doubts, you can just ask me. If no doubts, you can end up the session. Sir, did you take the attendance? If you have taken, then I can. Thank you. So I'll be sending you this link. So CR will definitely pass on to you. Please do listen to this, because see, this is the thing. This particular topic we used to always deal in our lab, right? We used to play some audios, used to play some videos, and then draw conclusions, or involve you people in discussions, critical analysis. All these used to happen in practical class offline. So yeah, I know it is a bit difficult for me to conduct this one online, but I'll be sending you few links. Please check it on, and then listen to it, discuss about it. Thank you.